And hello again, and here we are back in my garage, surrounded by my bikes that I've built and bikes that I'm building at the moment. And that brings me to the subject of this video, which is hints and tips when it comes to building your own bike, whether a full restoration or indeed a resto mod. So the first thing I'd say is, a restoration back to standard is a hell of a lot easier than doing a full resto mod, because with a restoration you know what you're aiming for. You've got a photograph in a magazine and it's a clear track, a well-worn road if you like, from where you're starting now with a rusty old bike to a beautifully restored bike at the end. Lots of people have done it, so the road's clear. However, when you start modifying your bike in a unique way, you're going off that well-worn path into a forest, and who knows what problems you're going to find. So I would say, in my experience at least, modifying your bike is a hell of a lot more difficult than just doing a standard restoration. Of course, restorations have their own issues. Perhaps you can't find the parts you need, perhaps you've got to get them made. But in general, I would say a restoration is easier than a modification. Anyway, my first tip when it comes to either restoring or modifying your bike is to have a clear plan. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a goal, how do you know when you've scored? And so that means you've got to have a clear timeline, a schedule if you like, and a clear plan to get you from A to B. And right now you're starting at A with a rusted out non-running bike, or an idea in your head for a beautiful custom bike or whatever. And I would say where most people go wrong is underestimating the resources needed to complete that plan. Now, resources aren't just money. It's money, it's time, but it's also things like having somewhere to build the bike, having a safe, dry place where you can build your bike. If you haven't got that, you are on a hiding to nothing. It's also things like, what tools have you got available and what skills do you have? Now, what you can do, of course, is substitute one of those things for something else. So if you don't have the skills to rebuild an engine, you can go off and pay somebody else to do it, but that will cost you more money. Or if you haven't got much money, you can spend hours and hours and hours doing things that a professional might do in half an hour. So that's when it comes to resources. The next thing I would say when it comes to tips, hints and tips, is photograph everything you're doing. Get your camera out, get your mobile phone out and photograph everything you do. Every part you take off, every nut and bolt and washer, take a bloody photograph of it, because a year down the line, when you're coming to fit it all back together again, it's going to be invaluable. Yes, you have a workshop manual, but sometimes they don't quite give you the information in an easy way, and a photograph, might save you an awful lot of time. I find it particularly helpful actually on things like the routing of the wiring harness, that sort of thing. It's not always clear on a workshop manual the routing of a particular part of the wiring harness, whereas if you take a photograph of it, you know what the correct routing should be. So yeah, take lots of photographs, and in addition to that, I would also say keep a build log. Get yourself a sort of diary type thing, an A4 little book, and write down everything you can about the project. Every part you buy, its cost, where you bought it from, dimensions, things like the lengths of the brake lines you might need to order, what fasteners you need, what size they are, and so on. Just everything that you do, write it down, because it can be invaluable when a year down the line you're sort of thinking, oh, what happened there? Did I buy that part? What part did I buy? You can look back and say, oh yes, it was that one, I bought it from so and so, it doesn't fit, I'll have to phone them up and see about getting a replacement or sending back this particular part. So yeah, keep a build diary and take lots and lots and lots of photographs. Right, so obviously these are the sort of things that lots of people will tell you about when it comes to doing a restoration on a project. It doesn't really matter what it is, whether it's a bike, a car, a bicycle, a house. All projects seem to follow the same rule. Yes, you need a clear plan, you need a goal, you need a target, you need a schedule, you need resources. All projects follow the same rule. But what I found most people on YouTube and elsewhere don't talk about is how you feel about the project you're working on and how that can affect the project in general. So I'm going to now put this down. Hopefully you can still hear me. And with no expense spent, I've got a diagram, if I can find my pen. Right, so this pretty much applies to all projects. Doesn't matter whether you're building a bloody submarine or a bicycle, they're all the bloody same. So here we have a scale. This is how you feel about a project. At the top, you're really positive about it, and down here, you're miserable and you hate it and you wish it had never happened. And over here, we have time. Time could be anything from a week to a year. And so things inevitably start to go downhill. The way you feel about the project starts to dive. And as time goes by, things don't get any better. It's costing you lots and lots of money that you didn't expect. It's taking longer than expected. And you start to get a bit sick of it. You're thinking, oh, should I have done this? You know, I don't think I can do this. Your feelings about the project start to go down and down. And eventually it gets really, really bad until you're down here in what's called the pit of despair. You might have been working on it now for months, spent thousands of pounds on it. It's in lots of different parts, scattered around the country. It's costing you a fortune, far more than you expected. You don't seem to be getting anywhere. You know, you think, how the hell am I ever going to finish this? Maybe you're busy at work, you have very little time now, you got family commitments, other things are happening. It seems like a lifetime since you started the project, and you think, Jesus Christ, how on earth can I afford this? Not just in money, but time and effort and so on. And this can go on and on for a very long time. It's this point where you find incomplete projects for sale on eBay and Facebook Marketplace for a fraction of the cost that it costs you. And that's what you don't want to happen to you. So I would say be aware this happens. It happens on pretty much every project unless you're really, very lucky. So yeah, be aware of that and try and fight against it. But hopefully, as time goes by, parts seem to come back from various sources. Perhaps you get your paintwork back from the painter who spent a year painting it for you, but it looks amazing, it looks fantastic. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but it looks fantastic. You're happy, and you're happier now, so things start to pick up a little bit. And then other things go together. You start to assemble parts back on the bike for the first time. It looks pretty damn good. Pretty good. Maybe a mate comes around and says, my God, mate, that looks amazing. Really well done there. You're doing a cracking job. So your feelings about the project start to go up, and you start to see the finish line. It's like a marathon. It's not a sprint. Building something like this, any decent sized project, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And now you're in the last half mile and you can see the finish line and you feel a lot better about it until eventually, hopefully, you hit the finish line and all's good. The bike's finished, it's running well, you're taking it to shows, it's winning prizes, or you're just riding it around the countryside, feeling great, and everyone's happy. But be aware this happens, this sort of pit of despair on any project. It happens, and yeah, if you're aware of it, it shouldn't come as a shock, and just accept it. It happens, but how on earth do you get through that? You're just going to have a bit of discipline and be aware of that happens. And I would say for me, how I get around it is I try and do something on the project every day. That might not be very much. It might be 5 minutes spent on eBay trying to find a particular second-hand part. Or it might be coming in here, I'll just say, I'll just do 10 minutes. I'll just tidy up. I'll just tidy up. That's all I want to do. It's cold in here, it's damp outside. I'm not staying long. But I'll bring in a cup of tea and I'll start to tidy up. And before you know it, your tea's drunk and you've been in here for an hour and you've got something done. And my last tip when it comes to your project is enjoy the process. Don't beat yourself up because you missed a particular goal, you missed a target that you set a year ago. At the end of the day, you're your own boss when it comes to your target. There's nobody behind you sort of telling you get that done or else. It's your project, you're your own boss, so it doesn't really matter if you don't hit a particular plan, a particular goal. Yes, it's important to have goals and targets, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And all you've got to do is reset your targets, reset your plan. Because obviously your original plan was a little bit too optimistic. So don't beat yourself up because things don't go as you planned or things go wrong. They're bound to go wrong. You know, don't worry about it. No one's going to die. It doesn't matter. It's only your project at the end of the day. You've got no boss shouting at you saying, get it done, get it done, get it done, or else. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're doing it for fun. I hope you enjoy building your bike, because if you don't, why are you bothering doing a project in the first place? And hopefully you can learn a lot along the way, pick up some new skills, buy yourself some more tools, and in the future, a year or two down the way, you might think, oh, I want to do another project. You'll start a new project, and that project will hopefully go a lot better than the first one, and you'll have more skills that you can build upon from there. To end this video, don't forget to have fun. You're doing it because you want to do it and you want to achieve something and have fun along the way. So yeah, that's I think the key thing to take away from this video. Try and enjoy your project. Don't beat yourself up if things don't go according to plan. Just reschedule and keep on going through with the well-known pit of despair until you get to the finish line with your project finished and you're happy. And yeah, all's good, and maybe you'll do another project in the future. So with that, thanks for watching, and cheers.